Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's been 2-3 weeks since I last met with you.
Welcome back. You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Stars in your eyes.
I had serious surgery. I couldn't move for about a week.
Okay.
And then I began to move, and I'm moving now.
Okay.
I'm walking and back into routine of things. Hopefully, it'll be some time yet before I'm back to normal.
Okay. Well, you navigated the stairs up here to the studio.
Yeah, I had to stop and pray halfway up, but it made it. Well,
I'm not making fun. You're just very entertaining, and I have missed this terribly.
You have, huh?
I really have missed this. This is a staple in my life, and I really enjoy it.
Good. Yeah, I enjoy doing it. I don't know how long we'll be able to keep doing this, Benji.
Well, we're going to keep going as long as we can keep going.
Okay. All right, I'll do my part. And things are happening in the country, in the world.
Yep, we have a new president.
That are very, very curious, disconcerting, disappointing, and bothersome to me. I don't know about you, but that's why I chose the theme of freedom today.
Okay. Yes, Christian Freedom wrote July 3rd, 1966.
Yeah, I wrote this, and I'm still reading it as fresh thoughts from me that I'd like to share with you. Freedom in general is something that's very precious to us all.
Correct.
In America,
that's what I fought for.
In America, we were built on freedom, liberty. Give me liberty or give me death, Patrick Henry. And events lately are beginning to make us doubt if we're going to be able to hang on to that kind of liberty. A cartoon I saw the other day, actually my wife shared with me, Statue of Liberty with suitcases walking back to France, walking on water. Is this what's happening to America? I don't know.
I did see there was some satire about all the Kamala Harris supporters were moving to Canada.
Yeah.
I saw a march north.
They'll march north. That's the first time they've marched north. Many marched north in the 70s to evade the draft when the Vietnam War was in full sway. And I even counseled a couple of college students how they could do alternative service and not go into the draft.
Oh.
Well, in the church, freedom is a very precious term and a very, very, in my opinion, neglected term in America. Christian freedom, therefore, is something I want to talk about.
Okay.
I'm also going to talk about external freedom mostly, but also our own personal freedom that comes from internal freedom. And I'll talk about that in a minute.
I like the external versus internal freedom reference. That's definitely something I can latch on to.
Well, we love the term, and we all think we're free. But are we free? That's a question.
I guess we're about to find out.
Okay. It's ironic that in a day when mankind universally is clamoring for liberty, the Christian church does not enjoy the reputation of doing much about it within its own ranks. On the contrary, its role often seems to be that of a denier of freedom. As horrible as that may sound, what has happened to the ringing cry of the apostle, "For freedom Christ has set us free"?
Well,
what
that's
has
something
happened?
I've been questioning over the past 7 days myself.
Oh, you have, huh?
Oh, much so.
Okay.
And it's nice to hear that I'm not the only one
it's
echoing that thought.
Christ gives us freedom internally that helps us navigate through all the obstacles that we encounter in life thrown in front of us. Lack of freedom is often deliberately worked into the structure of the church, or inadvertently creeps into it with the passing of years. Some churches deny freedom because of their organizational structure.
Bing, bing, bing. Winner, winner.
Bing, bing.
Chicken dinner.
To be human is to be part of a social group, and social groups have to be organized to survive.
Okay.
And at that point creeps in this phenomenon of wanting to control the social group in which you are.
Correct.
So how is a group going to survive if there is no control? And if there is no control, who is going to be in charge of the control mechanisms? That's the organizational structure we're talking about.
It's a very institutional type of approach.
A rigid hierarchy is what some churches try. They make the rules and enforces them rigidly. In such churches, you can do nothing more than pay and obey. Okay?
Now that sounds like a T-shirt.
Pay, obey, and okay?
Pay and obey. Okay.
Okay?
And no hooray.
No hooray. The creed of the church is not in such cases the expression of the faith of the people, but the enforced rule of correct belief, within which the gates of paradise remain forever shut. Now other churches practice intolerance by enforcing dogma and doctrine, rigidity in dogma and doctrine. It is not expression of faith, but the enforced rule of correct belief. So the church has followed in the tradition of its history, in which Jesus wrestled with this phenomenon. Jesus wrestled with those in charge of the social groups in which they existed, the religious and political, and they set the rules, they set the pace, and expected conformity. Now, outside of conformity, there was no freedom. Inside of conformity, there's no freedom, but there's the security of slavery. You are within four walls. You are given enough food and a place to sleep, and that's all you need. You don't need the outside. How long can you take that? Not much.
No.
Now, other churches practice intolerance by enforcing tradition. Tradition. The ancients are sanctified and idolized regardless of whether they mean anything anymore for us or not. How they did it comes to be the law. And there is no freedom outside of your conformity there either.
No.
It is either the will. It's interesting. I've watched in America how churches split from other churches to form new churches for the sake of freedom. But the Pope arises in the new church that has to rule the new church, or else there's no freedom. So the problem is multiplied.
Well put.
We Protestants have rejected the supremacy and the infallibility of the Pope of Roman Catholicism, but there are a million local popes in local churches.
Correct.
So, have we gotten away from the problem? No.
No.
It's just that everybody wants to be a pope. So individual freedom doesn't mean that you want to be a pope yourself. I know the temptation to take control and to enforce my will on others in the name of God, in the name of Christ. And that's no freedom.
No. There's actually a movie with Denzel Washington called The Book of Ezekiel.
The book of Ezekiel.
Yes, and they just went through this process of how the power of the Bible. There were no Bibles. They couldn't find a Bible.
Yeah.
And there was this one guy who craved power, and he spent his whole life looking for what they called a book, trying to find the right book.
Yeah, he wrote it then.
And so Ezekiel, played by Denzel Washington, had to rewrite the book.
Yeah.
But the fact is when the guy who wanted the power actually found the book and had cast out Ezekiel, found out the book was in Braille. And he needed Ezekiel to translate it so that he could have the full, and he never got it. And so it was this futile attempt at power. It's a fantastic movie, but kind of echoes a few things you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. Now, social practices can become our tormentors as well.
True.
They inflexible demands on the new generation to do things the way the things used to be. Now, tradition is good. It's important. Our history.
Of course. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it.
But history cannot be a taskmaster. We must find the ability to live and to work and to act free from the constraints of the old without rejecting the old.
Very great way of putting it.
It's like the foundation. You build a foundation and build a house on it. But the day comes when that house is no longer suitable, so you tear it down and build a new building on it. So you should be able to do that.
If the foundation is strong.
Yeah, if the foundation
And you don't
is
have
strong.
any leaks.
Or you strengthen the foundation, whatever. But the foundation is very important. I watched my dad have a big trench dug for the foundations of the house he built. But the house he built on it eventually was no good. It was torn down. He didn't have enough money. So there's a 3-story structure there now. I went and visited it years ago.
Okay.
The old house is gone. Now, the hypocrisy of our position is easily made evident when we seek to win converts to Christ and the church by saying only through the Christian gospel will you find true freedom. People who take us seriously are appalled at what they find within the supposed ranks of God's happy family on earth, the church. They find often that they cannot move unless they conform. And
Well put.
so do we then advocate anarchy? There's a difference between freedom and anarchy. Anarchy is do whatever you please, no matter what people say. But that's not freedom.
And there's no balance in that.
Christian freedom demands of us responsible action based on the love of God and the love of our fellow men, as opposed to self-centeredness or the flesh, as the apostle puts it. So there is the freedom that frees us to be what Christ himself was and helps us to become. If the Son shall make you free, you shall be free indeed, says Jesus in John chapter 8. Now, true freedom then is being released from the shackles of old and be free now to adopt a new direction. But the new direction is not to be upon self-centered demands.
Correct.
That's what's scaring me about American freedom. We are electing those who just care for themselves and are placing leaders who are just as self-centered. Just as an example, the man appointed to be Attorney General of our country was a man who was going to be indicted. I don't want to put the name. I don't want to name the name.
That's okay. Names aren't important.
And he was going to be expelled from Congress. He resigned before they did that. So, how is it that we can become the kind of people who use freedom responsibly?
That seems like the big question.
Okay, it is a big question. No one but I can decide, but I must decide according to the principles that I have discovered and adopted from Christ himself, the man who lived for others. So when you live for others, it doesn't mean you lose your independence, but you gain the power of love. And Paul said, you were called to freedom, only do not use for your freedom as an opportunity for the flesh, but through love be servants of one another. For the whole law is fulfilled in one word, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you are not consumed by one another. Behold the foundation on which Christian freedom is built. So learning from Christ is not to learn how to be myself and nothing else. Nobody can tell me what to do. I do what I please. I don't care. That's not the freedom. That's chaos. But the freedom that Christ has to give of himself in love, to serve others, and eventually even to die on the cross. That's the contradictory message or the contradictory concept in the gospel. So willingly giving of myself is the willing love of the mother who gives of herself, feeds the children first, and whatever is left she eats for herself. Okay? So I thought I'd talk about that today.
I identify with that a lot.
The scene in the world, the Christian world today, is in a dog-eat-dog world, and politically you see it more than ever. And I'm quite disappointed about that. We don't have the leaders who understand what it means to live for others. So what are we going to do about it?
That is a great question.
Yeah?
What are we going to do about it?
What are we going to do about it? We're not going to take a Molotov cocktail and throw it
No.
at the state capitol.
Evil begets evil.
But we are going to pray that God will enable us to survive in the midst of chaos by asking God, what can I do today to be a positive force and not negative? That is the prayer I pray. And I ask God, in the little world that I still survive in, the walls are closing in on me. I cannot operate the way I used to, but within the limited circumstances, how can I share the love of God so that I freely give of myself? It's not taken by force. It's freely given. Yeah. That's the message today. And I hope that the Statue of Liberty will turn around and come back, back on its base.
That was a fantastic reference to the Statue of Liberty.
That's the
grabbing her bag and heading out.
When I was traveling to America on a ship called the SS Saturnia, an old Italian ship, when we approached the shores, we strained to see the Statue of Liberty. That's what we wanted to see. We saw a row of apartment buildings first coming up the Long Island Sound, and then we saw it in the bay right outside New York City, and we cheered. And I want that cheer to go up in my heart every day. Now, how can I exercise authority by allowing people to be themselves and not force them to conform to what I'm demanding? So I have two roles to play, one as an individual believer and another as a leader. As a leader who is in charge of the structures or the people or the organization so that we can thrive together.
Correct.
Okay, that's the
Not
prayer.
just survive.
But to thrive by honoring everybody's talent. Paul says we all have gifts. Identify what those gifts are, help each one identify, and not bear down negatively because they're not the gifts that we have, but to add to the gifts we have and bring a new perspective, a new dimension, open a new window into the room. That's how we grow together.
Agree.
Okay?
Agree. Very well put.
All right. That's my message today. And the question is, are you working, am I working on developing that kind of inner freedom that comes from Christ? Christ is just not a name, but Christ is a force. Christ is a presence who educates us by calling us to follow him. But following him, we have to read and understand what he is saying. The teachings of Jesus are very important. when Jesus says, turn the other cheek, when somebody slaps you, it doesn't mean that you're weak, but it means you're strong. You're going to outlast that and still love that person who slapped you and help him understand who Christ can be in his life. Okay? All right, I stopped preaching for today.
Why?
Huh? Because I should...
I've never nodded so much in one episode in my life.
Because I'm not here to preach. I'm here to share. I have a friend who said he goes to a church. It's a big Bible class. He said we first met in a circle. Now it has grown to the point where we sit in pews and the teacher gets up in the pulpit and supposedly is teaching, but he's not. He's indoctrinating. He does not entertain questions. You raise a question, he says, well, maybe that's your opinion, and goes on. And,
wow.
Jesus,
Boy, isn't that nice?
Yeah. But that's not what Jesus does for us. Jesus stops, listens, incorporates, loves us, puts his arm around us and says, walk with me today.
Walk with me, Jesus.
Let's walk with him today.
Someday it's going to be a title of the next book.
Okay.
Shall we stop here?
Yeah.
Okay.